Hey guys, my name is Jesse Wright, and welcome to our interview on the topic of coachability. I want to take this time to welcome Jake Weiss, who is the founder and the owner of Coachability Consultants. And Jake, welcome.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Jesse. I'm looking forward to the conversation on coachability.
Yeah, super intriguing topic, and love the opportunity to speak about it with you here. Why is it important? Why would we even want our employees, our staff members, maybe athletes that we coach, or why would we need them or want them to be coachable?
Yeah, so I'll share some of the insight that we found through the research that we've conducted across different industries on the impact, but I do want to highlight one point you mentioned as you talked about your son and the compliment that you get from a teacher or a coach about how coachable he is. And just thinking about that, one of the benefits for anyone who's providing coaching or feedback in any domain, it's a lot easier and more enjoyable to coach highly coachable individuals. So if you think about the concept of embedding coachability in the organization or in your staff, if it's a lot easier to interact with, collaborate with, and coach people who are open to coaching, even if it's on a topic that they might not want to hear about, and even if they might be a little bit defensive initially. So that's one of the benefits that I feel we often overlook is just the enjoyment of working with someone who's highly coachable.
Mhm.
Um, Beyond that, it what our research shows is that individuals who operate at highly coachable levels, they perform at higher levels. And to quantify that, we found through some of the peer-reviewed research that we put out there that highly coachable individuals receiving the same coaching, the same feedback, and situated in the same environment or culture perform at 10% higher levels than their moderately or less coachable counterparts. So we see big increases in performance. If you think about a team or an organization, if everyone improved their performance by 10%, that would have a really big impact on that team's bottom line or that organization's bottom line. Beyond performance, as cliche as it is, you hear people say change is the only constant, and it remains the only constant that we're always dealing with. And what our research finds is that individuals who are highly coachable are 28% more agile and adaptable than their more moderately coachable counterparts. So not only are they better able to react to change, but they're able to get on the front end of change and be more effective before it even occurs. And part of that is through their proactive nature. If we're waiting for coaching to happen to us, we're at the mercy of the environment or the people that are around us to help us change. Whereas if we're proactive about finding the information that we need to grow and improve, then we can get on the front end of change and not be reactive, but really be active in terms of driving the outcomes that we want. And we can identify and pivot quicker when change does occur. And the last piece that we often look at is around promotability. So it's always a topic of conversation within organizations. How do we identify high potential talent? What are some of the key differentiators between those who get promoted and those who do not? And as you mentioned, when you're recruiting, whether it's for a team or for an organization, you're ultimately going to start with some of their skill or their performance, which is one factor. But what we found through our research is that highly coachable individuals are 30% more promotable than more moderately coachable individuals. Part of that is because not only do they achieve higher levels of performance, but because they're tapping into a wider range of sources and they're more open to feedback and different ideas, they're able to develop a wider range of knowledge, skills, and abilities that set them up for more success in advanced roles. So to kind of summarize that, we see performance outcomes, specifically performance, agility, promotability. And then as we look at a coaching context, what we see is it's ultimately more enjoyable for leaders and coaches to work with highly coachable individuals. That's a benefit, but also we can maximize the effectiveness of coaching interactions if we can help elevate coachability to highly coachable levels, because you can have the best coach in the world. If I'm not willing to take in the information that you're providing and do something with it, then that coaching by definition isn't going to lead to result. So we look at the effectiveness or the impact of coachability on some of those individual outcomes, as well as on the effectiveness of coaching interactions, and ultimately coaching cultures are really optimized when we not only look at the coaching side of the equation, but also on the coachability side.
Yeah, a couple really Really powerful points there. Your first one made me think. I go back and I put my strength and conditioning coach hat on from many years of my career, and there was definitely a different feel prior to a session where you knew there was a an interested and captive weight room guy that was coming in, and you knew was into training, into programming, wired to want to get better and be coachable, on brand and on theme that we're talking about. And then the feeling of someone where you knew there was a guy coming in that probably generally didn't have much interest in being in the weight room or getting better, and would have been difficult to train and coach. And again, throughout a career, everyone experiences both of those, but just the enjoyment factor of doing your job in those two different types of hours, incredibly powerful from just a job satisfaction perspective. And then as you're walking through sort of the what and the why of coachability, it just reminds me of this concept of player development, which again got a chance to see at all of the levels that I worked with. And organizationally, again, when you bring a new athlete, you bring a new student athlete into your fold, you're recruiting and bringing in and onboarding some level of talent, but the real job is getting that talented player better, right? And taking that sort of blank canvas of athleticism and general ability and turning them into a refined product that can go on, and maybe if you're at the college level, go on to a pro level, right? And if you're at the pro level, go on to all pro status or all-star level or something. And that's again, when you talk about the enjoyment of it, that's the real satisfaction you get. It becomes even more powerful when you have a coachable athlete. So you hit on those points very well. This was awesome. We hit on a ton of great information under the big global theme of coachability. Any sort of final thoughts as we wrap up our session here?
The last thought I'll leave everyone with is the thought I started with when you asked how do we define coachability. But we all own our coachability. We often hear people saying, and this was me in college, candidly, at one point, we were ranked top 10 in the country. I wasn't playing, and I was wondering, why is my coach not developing me? And when I look back on it, the question I ask myself is, what were you doing to grow and develop yourself? And there are a lot of people that we can tap into for coaching and for feedback. So we own that. We shouldn't limit ourselves to someone that we have the strongest relationship with. But if we own our growth and development, we should find different sources to tap into, and we should put ourselves in the driver's seat of our own growth, of our own career. And that's an empowering place to be in. So that's the last thought I'll leave with, is that we do control and own our coachability. And it's important that we bring that thought into the forefront as we move forward and look to improve our job related skills and ultimately our performance.
Jake, thank you so much for your time and all your great insight and everything. I certainly learned a lot here, and very appreciative for all your great answers and your time here. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. I enjoyed it.